and welcome to Tammy and Friends. Oh, I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest today. Texas raised, Jesus saved, and I'm tipping my coffee cup not only to him, but I'm tipping my coffee cup to you as well. I'm excited to introduce Jordan Ross. He was described to me as pure delight. He plays Little James on The Chosen. He's an actor, a screenwriter. He's a host and a public speaker. And at the tender age of 6, yes, 6, he was already acting. And by the time he was 16, he had been in 40 professional productions. Jordan, if I had a spotlight, it's like I just want to turn that spotlight right towards you, my friend, and we cannot wait to hear what you have to say today. You're amazing. You are a true hero in the eyes of so many. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. I was listening to some of your stuff beforehand, and I love how conversational and down to earth and empathetic you are. And that's kind of what my whole image is about too, what my whole podcast is, and what I want to promote. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I want to just jump right into the deep end with you today. So, when you found out that you had landed a role in The Chosen, tell us what your reaction was, because I watched one video where Dallas is actually looking at you and he says, "I'm so glad we cast you."
Yeah, that was special to hear from Dallas because you know, previous to The Chosen, I had been replaced from roles because my limp was too noticeable. I had missed out on roles because of it. I had been, told to lose the limp or try to make the limp less noticeable. So there was a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear surrounding that. So getting booked on The Chosen was really exciting. It was the first thing I'd booked in a while, but it was scary because I would be wearing sandals where my limp is more noticeable. I can't wear my lift that I normally wear. And Dallas came up to me my very first day on set and noticed the limp and just asked what my condition was, and I explained it. Um, but deep down, I was worried that, oh, is he going to replace me? Is he going to cut me out? Is he going to make my role smaller? And thankfully, it added to the role. It added so much depth to the character. Not that there wasn't already some there, but they were able to take this part of me, put it into the character, and it just brought this whole new level to little James that I never would have imagined before. And it also helped me as a person to love and accept that part of me as well. It was something that I was so ashamed of this part of me. I was so embarrassed. I had so many deep wounds from others that had made fun of me, that had beat me up in high school. Um, and now all of a sudden I'm shining a light on that for millions and millions of people. And that helped me to see it as a strength and not a weakness because I saw how it was able to inspire others that were in similar situations. That other little kids can now watch that and see themselves represented. And now I'm proud of that part of me, even though there is still some insecurity there. There's still some shame, but I understand now that that's not representative of my own worth to the world. That's just a remnant or remnants or an old wound that was caused by other people that had their own insecurities and felt that they needed to hurt someone else to make themselves feel better. So um, I'm in a much healthier mindset now when it comes to the way I view myself and the way I am able to accept myself as I am. And The Chosen and Dallas Jenkins are a huge, huge catalyst for that.
I bet. I know that I watched a video where you were talking about a situation in public school where you were a teenager and some boys came over and they wanted you to sit with them at lunch. I am a former middle school teacher. I saw I saw this scenario play out many times, and as a middle school teacher for so long, I continued to go back and watch what you said in that, and it so moved me that I sent that video to a couple of my friends, and both of them have issues where they don't walk in a flowing way. Both of them kind of drag their leg a little bit. And let me tell you, it moved them. And one of my friends, Michelle, said this. She said, "Oh, that was hard to watch, but it was so inspiring." So, and Michelle is also a teacher. She's a high school teacher. So tell us about that setting in public school.
Yeah, it was being in public school for the first time was tricky. Prior to that, I did a lot of homeschooling because I was acting so much, like in theater, and I also went to a few private schools where I knew all of the kids since I was, in pre-K. So they all knew I walked different. They knew that I had medical issues, but since they knew me from such a young age, it was just normal. They never made fun of me. I felt totally accepted. And then same with theater. I knew I walked different from some of the other kids in the shows, and that sometimes they would have to adjust choreography if we're doing a dance number because my back or my body just wouldn't move that way. So, but it was very accommodating and warm and welcome, and that's why I fell in love with theater in the first place was the community and the camaraderie that you experience in that type of environment. But then in high school, I thought, oh, I'll have no problem making friends. I always get along with new castmates and stuff like that. And it was a lot harder than I anticipated. So it was several months in. I still was having a difficult time really even having a conversation with another kid because it was so clicky. People had their own little groups that they had known forever, and I started dressing like the different cliques. I would dress, with the more punk goth clothes, and then I would wear the preppy clothes, and just trying to see where I fit in. And I was trying to manufacture these friendships, and it just wasn't working. So then I just started sitting on my own, and these kids invited me to go sit with them at lunch one day, and they seemed to show interest, and they were asking what I like to do. And at that point, I'd done a couple of TV shows and little parts in a couple of episodes, and I told them about that, and they said, "Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they let cripples on that show." And then they started laughing. So that's when I realized it wasn't to be friends with me. It was because they wanted to make fun of me. I was an easy target, and I just kind of played dumb and because I didn't know how else to respond, so I just kept talking and I would laugh at myself and make fun of myself, and then that became a big defense mechanism was self-deprecating humor and uh, feeling like if I beat them to the punch, then it'll sting less, it will hurt less. But in reality, it just gave them permission almost to also make fun of me. So that was hard, and then it slowly turned into, like, physical bullying and, people since my foot does drag a bit, it's easy to trip me, so people, like, putting their foot under mine as I was walking, so I would trip and fall, and, it was a really, really dark time, for me mentally and emotionally because I felt like I had been given this gift for acting that I loved and that it was my biggest passion, but then I was given this curse that was preventing me from ever realizing my full potential as an actor, which was my limp. And I was just really discouraged. I didn't really know what to do. And I, at one point was suicidal. I was having suicidal tendencies and went as far as to even write a letter to my family. Um, and then there were a few kids that eventually did kind of embrace me and um, would like they were friends. They weren't actors or anything. We didn't have a whole lot in common, but they thought I was funny, so they allowed me into their group, which that was kind of a lifesaver for me. And they were the football players, so they were also protectors. So
Yeah.
I wasn't bullied as much anymore. Um, and then I decided from there just to kind of set my sights on acting and like what my goals were and pour my heart into that. And for better or worse. I was like, if I never make it, then fine, but I'm at least gonna try and give it my all. And I had a mom and grandparents and siblings that were all so, so, so supportive of that. Um, and yeah, I'm so grateful they stuck with me all these years. And then my wife, who I met later on, in the middle of my struggling, starving actor phase, and she supported me through all of that as well, and the kids, and yeah, it's just been such a blessing to have that support system. And yeah, now here we are.
I love that. And whenever I was talking to my friend Michelle, who is the high school teacher, she said that there was a time whenever she was walking down the aisle as the teacher and somebody stuck their foot out and tripped her.
Wow.
Yes. And I mean, I have cried with her, laughed with her, all of those things. And I honestly, she is one of those people who I love so much. And so when somebody hurt her, it hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, so that whenever she said that was hard to watch, but so inspiring, I'm sure what she meant by that is that tears fell down her cheeks. You have a way of touching people's hearts. And I love that because it goes all the way to their soul. Let's let's fast forward from that, those high school days, those cafeteria ways that seem to plague public school, and let's move forward to little James, the wounded healer, the episode that made you, Jordan Ross, a fan favorite. Tell me how, yeah, let's just talk about that.
Yeah, sorry. No, that episode was, you know, I can't even describe how impactful that was for me as an actor, as a person, as just as a father, in every area of my life that changed so much for me. Um, it was the very last day of shooting that season of The Chosen. So I was already emotional because the season was coming to an end. Um, and then it was my first one-on-one scene with Jonathan, who plays Jesus. So that was really special as well because I always talk about his Jesus eyes. Once he turns those eyes on, you're just kind of like, whoa. It's hard not to just be super present in the moment, which is great as an actor. So um, he's a great, great scene partner and made my job so much easier. Um, but yeah, it was special because it was really cathartic and therapeutic to be able to express so many of the same, doubts or insecurities or, you know, um, frustrations that I've had in my life. And it was, in between takes, just kind of Jonathan and I would just hug before starting the scene and cry, and then I'd dry it up and wipe the tears, and then go start the scene again. And it was just a really really special experience, the act of actually doing the scene, and then fast forward to just a few months later, whenever that scene was released in theaters. With it was the end of episode 2 of season 3, and we released those two episodes, 1 and 2, as kind of a film in theaters. And when that came out, we had our first ever premiere in Atlanta, and it was at the Fox Theater. There was like 2,500 fans in the theater with us. We had a red carpet, or a teal carpet, for The Chosen, and um, it was that was such an insane experience because I had been pursuing this for so long, and now finally, like, and same with all of my friends on the show. When we all got cast in the show, we were all kind of at the end of our rope as actors. All of us have our own unique stories of, like, several of the cast were on the verge of quitting before getting cast on the show. A lot of us were, had just had a rough go of it in this industry, and then The Chosen was this lifeline. And it was so special to see all of us together experiencing this and seeing how much of an impact the show has had. And then sitting in the theater when that scene came up at the end, it just got so quiet, and you could hear a pin drop in this massive auditorium. And I'm sitting there with my wife, like, squeezing her hand off because I'm so nervous to see this scene that I spent so long preparing, and it came on, and I wasn't expecting to cry watching it because I knew exactly what would happen, and I got all my tears out shooting it, so I was like, I'll be fine. And as soon as it came on, I could kind of hear my wife crying, which I expected, and then I looked over and one of my other castmates was crying, and then I saw another castmate crying, and it was just all of us. It was such a special moment. All these people that I love so much, my best friends that are, my castmates, and my wife and my mom was in the auditorium as well. And having that support and all of these people that I love so much that I know loved me, seeing them moved by the scene because they know my story and they know my struggle, um, I lost it. And then going backstage, all of us were just puddles. And then once it came out officially in theaters, the response I got from fans was just amazing. Children with cerebral palsy that are also bullied, adults who walk with a limp that have felt insecure their whole life. I had a mom come up to me recently whose daughter passed away in her 20s who had severe cerebral palsy, and she said she watches that scene regularly to bring her comfort. And it's such a special thing to hang my hat on now to have been a small part of that scene. Um, that has had such an impact on so many people. And I truly feel, I had always wanted as an actor to make something that could impact people and leave a mark long after I'm gone.
Yes.
Um, and I
Yes.
hope there's many more of those opportunities. I hope I can do it again and again. But even if I never work again as an actor after The Chosen, I can proudly hang my hat on the fact that that scene in particular um, is something that I'm confident can move people and inspire people and teach them that, you know, regardless of the condition of their body or, the body they were born in, there's so much that they have to offer. They have value. They are worthy of love. They are capable of giving love to others and inspiring others. And um, the pain that we experience in this lifetime is so worth it once you find that purpose, once you find that confidence in yourself and learn that you are capable of making a difference. It makes all the pain that you experience leading up to it and after so much more bearable. And yeah, I hope that that's what people are able to take away from it.
I call it bullseye living. When you have figured out, when you've hit the bullseye and you've figured out how God wants to use your life. And whenever I was watching that episode, and when I mean, I just kept going back and I watched it again and again, and tears were just falling down my face because, we may not have, everyone may not have a physical limp, but they've got a limp of some kind, that makes them think that they don't live up to this or they're never going to be able to do this or that. And one of the things that I say often to people is, don't you want to see what happens if you don't quit? And just watching, just listening to you and saying that so many of those actors were about ready to quit. Look what happened because they didn't quit. And whenever you talk about that, you would do the take and then you would stop and you would do it again and you would cry with Dallas. How many takes did it take to get it?
I would say we did, I think, three different camera angles. So we did my coverage, we did Jonathan's, maybe four. And then with each of those, I think we did three or four takes. So yeah, for maybe 16, 12 to 16 takes.
Yeah.
Um, and having to maintain it each time and start from one place. The scene before is where he's telling us we're going to go out and heal. And when we shot that scene months earlier, it's funny because they happen right after each other, but we shot that scene like 2 months prior to my scene with Jonathan. Um, and I remember as little James, I was listening as little James, and I was just trying to take in what Jesus was saying, as little James would, and him telling us we're going to heal people, and not only that, he tells Matthew and Simon Z that none of you are what you were. Simon Z is no longer a zealot, Matthew's no longer a tax collector, and I remember thinking, man, if I were sitting in a group and being told I'm going to go heal people, and someone said that, I would feel like, that's not entirely true because I still am what I am. The things that they struggled with and have shame for, being a zealot and a tax collector, they can leave that behind. I can't leave my body behind. Like I still have my body. I still have my limp and my pain. And um, so listening to that, I was starting to get a little angry as little James and a little frustrated. And I wasn't anticipating that before. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go with it and lean into it because it's a real human emotion. So I started the scene with Jonathan months later, uh, from a place of a little bit of like I feel like little James found this boldness to approach him because he was angry and he was kind of at his boiling point, I guess. And I had to approach the scene from this point of like I'm at the end of my rope, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, but go from that place to this place of, I'm asking him to heal me essentially, and I'm getting the answer that I don't want. So then I have to go from like anger to just sorrow. And then from that to understanding that like from almost like hearing my purpose and understanding that there is more, that I do have a place in the group, but then there still is the fact that it wasn't the answer I wanted to hear. So not all I really love that the end of the scene, it's not just this happy revelation where it's like, great, everything's perfect now. Little James still has his insecurity. He still struggles with pain. And he probably still doubts his place in the group, just like we all do with imposter syndrome. Um, but he at least knows his purpose now, which is going to pay dividends moving forward. And I think in season 4, now I'm excited to continue Little James's story because, we'll get to see glimpses of he may know his purpose now, but he's still dealing with the physical, his worldly physical struggles, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited for the audience to see how that changes his perspective moving forward now that he knows his purpose, but is still dealing with physical pain. So yeah.
You make a great point there. A lot of times we're not healed of something physically, but our
Yeah.
heart can be healed of the pain that goes with it, and we can move forward. And I will tell you that I just checked this a couple of days ago, Jordan, but over 700,000 people have watched that on YouTube.
Wow.
I'm sure that it will be a lot more than that, but my goodness, the impact that you're having with that. And God knew all along. God knew when you were in that cafeteria in high school and you were between those two machines eating your lunch. Sometimes, it takes God a long time to do something suddenly. And you and I both know that it seems like it took a long time, but God's timing is so different than ours. And what he did when he watched you in that little crawl space was probably say, oh, my child, just wait. Because the people, my children that you are going to impact is going to be so great. Well, as we begin to come to a close, Jordan, I want to know about this podcast. Tell me about this podcast so that people can listen to you.
Of course. So my podcast that was inspired really by these scenes in The Chosen where I was addressing my own insecurities. Um, I realized in doing that the more I talked about my struggles and insecurities and the obstacles that I've faced, the less power they had over me and the way I viewed myself. And the more others were willing to open up to me as well about their own struggles. And it kind of made all of us feel less alone, like whoever I was talking to. And um, it just it was such a beautiful thing because the more you do that, the more vulnerable you are, the more meaningful your conversations are going to be, and the deeper your relationships will be. And I wanted to find a way to take that and then put it into something that I could share with the world. So I started this podcast called What's Your Limp? And I started out interviewing other actor friends and acquaintances and people in the film industry, but I've since branched out as well and have had musicians and athletes and public speakers and I interviewed a survivor of the Boston Marathon bombing who lost her leg, and a father who lost his daughter in the Parkland school shooting, and people who have gone through the worst traumas and the worst possible thing you can imagine, like as a parent losing your child, for instance, just the hardest, most difficult things that life can throw at you, um, and talking to them about that pain and then um, not pushing that pain down or trying to move past it because to be honest, some pain you never move past. But the fact that they're taking that pain and doing something good with it, and same is true with all of the guests, whether it's someone that had an eating disorder or someone who had severe acne as a teenager and got picked on, something that is as small as that is, you can take and use to your advantage and to learn empathy and patience. And yeah, so I started this podcast, What's Your Limp, where I interview other um, public figures mostly about what their respective limp is, whether it's physical or internal. And it's been just amazing getting to talk to friends about things that maybe haven't come up in our day-to-day conversations and get a little bit deeper and to hear from, guests like I had Tim McGraw on who I worked with, and his vulnerability as, a country music superstar, his willingness to talk about struggling with addiction and alcoholism and people that I've had on, it's just so heartwarming to see that all of these people are willing to share themselves with the world in that way, and it helps so many people to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. So and it gives them hope. So yeah, that's what the podcast is all about.
I love that. And transparency is the hardest thing in the world to do. But when we are transparent and we give God the glory, He will definitely give us opportunities and open windows. And I just pray, Jordan, that more and more and more opportunities and open windows come your way from the Lord because you said something earlier, and I'm going to refer to it to this scripture. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, I believe it says, when we are in Christ, the old is gone and the new has come. And I am just jumping for joy at what God is doing in this new season of your life and how you are affecting so many people. So, Jordan, thank you so much for being with us today. I want to end with one thing. If someone wants to hire you to speak, to host any of this, tell me what
Yeah.
your website is, please.
It is jordanwalkerross.com, and you can email me there. You can also contact me on social media. It's at the Jordan Ross. And yeah, I'm always happy to go, speak at events or conferences or, whatever it is that you have going on.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to tip my coffee cup at you, Jordan Ross, and it has been a joy. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.